like to call to order the Tuesday, November 15th, 2022 meeting of the Frankfort Plant Board at 5 o'clock in the community room at the Frankfort Plant Board office. With that, Madam Secretary, would you call the roll? Jason will be joining us. Well, Jason's there. He's got a sick child and he's been exposed to the crud. So, how you doing, Jason? Okay.
Ben?
Here.
Member Mason?
Here.
Member Snyder?
Here.
Member Dutton Mitchell?
Here.
We have a quorum to do business. First item on the agenda is consider approval of the minutes for October 18th, 2022. Has everybody had a chance to review them? Do we have a motion? We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Minutes adopted. Next item is consider approval of the minutes for October 28th, 2022 special meeting. Has everybody had a chance to review them? Any changes, corrections? If not, do we have a motion?
So moved.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Minutes adopted. Item 1.3, consider approval of the minutes for November 7th, 2022 special board meeting. Has everybody had a chance to review? Any changes, corrections? If not, do we have a motion to accept?
So moved.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Minutes adopted. We've had two specials and one. Oh, gee. How time flies. Next is accept. Huh? Oh, yeah. Yeah, it'd be in your check. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it'd be there under net pay, buddy. Action. Consider next item financials. Mr. Denton?
Yes, sir. Do we do financials for this?
Yes.
period, or- Okay. Yeah, we sure can.
Oh, you want to do the audit first?
That'd be fine.
Whichever way. Okay, because I see Alan's on there.
Yeah, we'll go ahead. We've got with us tonight Alan Norvell with Blue and Company. The plant board of directors approved retaining Blue and Company for the audit ending June 30, 2022. This is required per statutes that form the plant board. So this is the year we're looking to present here tonight. I'll go ahead and turn over to Alan to give you the presentation, and then we can go through any questions or comments you have after that. So Alan, I'll let you take it away.
Thank you, David. Can everyone hear me? Start with.
You're a little faint.
A little faint. Is that better?
No.
Not yet.
A little better there.
Oh, that's good.
That's better.
Is that better?
Yes.
Yes.
That's better.
Okay. Well, good. Okay, so I'm going to start off by saying thank you to the board for giving us the opportunity to serve as the auditors again for June 30, 2022. We appreciate that opportunity, and I always like to take this time to thank the staff for their assistance throughout the audit. I know we're always a major interruption on their daily routines, and so I always want to thank them for their assistance throughout the audit. And usually I like to start off with if there are any significant or new accounting standards or audit standards that impact us. From an accounting standpoint, this was kind of a quiet year on the accounting standards front, so nothing significant new that impacted the plant board for fiscal 2022. There is a new audit standard that will point out the impact in this report once we get to that. So I'm going to share my screen, if I may, and just for a couple of minutes and run through some highlights here. So let me know if you can't see, but what you should see in front of you is the page one, just with the highlight of June 30, 2022. Is that showing up on your end?
Yes.
Thank you. And the first thing I wanted to quickly go through with you were some changes to the auditor's opinion, and this is that new audit standard I just referenced. That most of the impact on this opinion letter was geography, moving things around, and the first key change is to move the opinion paragraph, which is what I have highlighted here, to the front of the report. And the key point there is that second paragraph where it reads, "In our opinion, the financial statements referred to above present fairly." That's what you're looking for. That's an unmodified opinion. That's a clean opinion on the financial statements. The next new section of significance, it's not really a new section, it's an expanded section on the auditor's responsibilities. There's not really new responsibilities addressed in this. It's just a lot more content around those responsibilities, and all those bullet points have been added this year. So that's new in all standard audit reports. You'll start to get accustomed to that. Another item I wanted to highlight for you, and I've got it referenced here in that last bullet point, and you can see I've got the words going concern referenced. Both management and the auditors have always had responsibilities around going concern, but you wouldn't see it mentioned in this report under the old rules unless there was a concern or doubt about the entity's ability to continue as a going concern. Now that has to be addressed, even in situations such as the plant board where there is no concern. But we still have to point out that that is part of both the auditor's responsibility here, and it's also mentioned up here as part of management's responsibilities as well, as you can see it mentioned right there. So again, nothing of concern there to you, but it now will be mentioned in this report going forward. And then just a couple of more things to point out, and then the pace will pick up here. The required supplementary information, management's discussion and analysis, and some pension and OPEB schedules. Just a reminder that those are not subject to audit under the audit standards. They are just, there's just certain limited procedures that we apply to that information, basically making sure it is consistent or not inconsistent with the audited information. So that's that paragraph. And then the paragraph right below that is supplementary information distinguished from required supplementary information. So this is additional information such as the combining statements and the budgetary comparison schedules that are included in this document. And that information we are required to audit, which is what's highlighted right here. And then the key takeaway for you on that information is this last sentence I have highlighted. In our opinion, the combining statements and budgetary comparison schedules are fairly stated in relation to the financial statements taken as a whole. So that's again what you're looking for to be said there. And so now the pace will pick up. Here's management's discussion and analysis. Again, it's unaudited information, and this is management's opportunity to expand upon things that occurred in the current year beyond what can be included in historical financial statements and the notes to the historical financial statements. So this is management's opportunity to provide further context or explanation for year-over-year changes and things of that nature. So that starts on page 5 and that continues through page 11. And then on page 12, we begin with the audited information, which is the statement of net position. And I'm going to blow up this or magnify this, and hopefully you can see it. And I'm on page, just got away from me, 38 of 207 in your board books, if it's easier to follow there. But I wanted to point out to you that just total assets and deferred outflow resources for June 30, 2022 were about $191 million for financial reporting purposes. Total liabilities and deferred inflows of resources was at $75 million, and that left a net position of about $116 million, again, at June 30, 2022. And then looking at your statement of revenues and expenses, just pointing out here, always one of the key numbers on this page is your income from operations. For the year, you had $10 million, up from $7.3 million in 2021, a nice increase there. And then the change in net position, the overall change in net position for the fiscal 2022 was approximately an increase of $11 million, up from $8.1 million in 2021. So a healthy increase there in your change in net position for the year. You began the year at $105 million, ended with $116 million. And after that is the cash flow statement. And just what I think from my perspective as an auditor and what I know about bond users of financials, et cetera, bond rating agencies, et cetera. Some of the key numbers here are your net cash provided by operating activities. Again, for financial reporting purposes, that was 17.4 million there. Under cash flows from capital and related activities, you can see that net cash used was approximately 41 million. A good bit of that, as always, historically, is in your purchase of capital assets, but a different item this year, it was related to a payment to an irrevocable trust for the defeasance of the 2015 bonds. So that occurred early in the fiscal year. You may not have mentioned that in recent months, but just recall that those bonds, those 2015 bonds, were defeased early in fiscal 2022, and that by virtue of putting approximately 14 million of cash in that trust. So that's another factor that drove that cash used for capital and related financing activities during 2022. Final couple of key numbers on this page I thought for 2022 is your net cash provided by investment or activities was approximately 19 million. Net change in cash and cash of all of that was approximately a $3 million decrease from 23 million at the beginning of the year to 20 million at year end. And I'm going to decrease the magnification and then we'll skip through a few pages. The notes begin on page page 15 or page 41 of 207 of your handout. And the first thing I had highlighted here to go over with you is just page 22 or page 48 of your handout. The note 4 on capital assets, that's one of the most significant disclosures in the plant board's financials, just to the nature of your operations and obviously the amount of money that you have invested in capital assets. So that's one of the keynotes in this financial statement. The next thing I had highlighted out to you is note 7, and this is the note on both your pension as well as your OPEB liabilities coming from your participation in the county employee retirement system and CERS. And I think one of the key things just to point out to you here, there's a lot of information. It starts on page 26 of the financials and continues on through page 33. The first 7 pages were pension. This is OPEB information. That continues on for several more pages to the bottom of page 36. So there's 10 pages of information there, but really none of that is under the control of management or the board as governance. All of that is set by either the entire retirement system through representation on that board, the investment policy set by that board, management works of the retirement system works with the actuaries to develop assumptions, et cetera. So really there's very little of that information that's under the influence of management of the plant board or the board of the plant board, but still it has to be that 10 pages of information still required to be included in the plant board's financial statements. So I think that's usually some of the key takeaway is that you really don't have a lot of control over that information, but it still has to be reported. Then that's the end of the notes. We're getting into some more of that required supplementary information related to the pension. There's a couple of schedules pension related, and then there's a couple of schedules that are that OPEB related or the health care benefit that's connected with the pension. And so there's a couple of schedules there related to it. That's the end of that required supplemental information that's not subjected to audit. And then I mentioned earlier that there's some additional supplementary information that is subjected to audit procedures, and that begins on page 45 or page 73. And this is the combining statement of net position, and this total column will tie back to the basic statement that we reviewed earlier, but it shows a breakdown by division between electric, water, and telecom. Same thing under, or there's a statement of a schedule, of changes in based on a budget to actual comparison that's provided. And then there's a combining statement of revenues and expenses. And again, this broken down by division with a separate column with a total that agrees back to that basic statement that we reviewed earlier. So this provides additional detail by division so that you can, the reader can glean more information there if they're interested in that. And then the budget to actual for the schedule of operating expenses. And then finally, the report on internal control and compliance. So first off, this section is required by government auditing standards. And the first part that you're going to be interested in is under internal control. And I've got highlighted here, the bottom of page 49, where it reads, during our audit, we did not identify any deficiencies in internal control that we consider to be material weaknesses. That's what you're looking for in this report related to internal control. Next page, the top of the next page is where we report on compliance, and the key takeaway here is that last sentence that I have highlighted. The results of our test disclose no instances of non-compliance or other matters that are required to be reported under government auditing standards. So again, that's what you're looking for there in connection with our testing of compliance. So before I move into the letter to governance, I'll pause there briefly. Are there any questions or anything I can clarify related to the basic financial statements and the note disclosures and the supplementary information in that package or document?
Does anybody have any questions for Alan at this point? Alan, you're either way over our head or you're the best explainer in the whole world, buddy.
Hopefully it made some sense. I'll take another minute and go through the governance letter
Okay.
then, and I'll wrap it up. So this is the required communication at the end of the audit. And we have to address a few key matters to the board or to governance. First, if there were any new accounting policies, and I mentioned at the outset that this was a quiet year on the accounting standards front, so there was nothing new of significance that impacted the Plan Board for 2022. We're also required to point out any significant estimates that impact your financial statements, and there are 3 for the Plan Board. The first one is that net pension liability and the net OPEB liability, and I referred to those 10 pages of disclosures and all the assumptions and the terms and the benefits and all that go into that calculation. And so that is a significant impact on the financial statements for the Plan Board. Given the nature of your operations and the level of investment you have in capital assets, the useful lives used to calculate the depreciation of those assets is a significant estimate that impacts the financials. And then the allowance for doubtful accounts on bills that may not be collectible, a much smaller impact, but still a significant impact on the financial statements. Other items that are required to be addressed, no difficulties in performing the audit. There is a schedule of waived adjustments that are not material to the financial statements, and I'll go over that briefly here. It's the very last page of this document, so we'll get there in just a few seconds. But no disagreements to report to you. There will be a management representation letter that we will get from management to wrap this up. If the board approves this for completion and issuance, it has been presented, as David mentioned to you, as a draft report for your approval. And once you have given that approval, we'll issue the report. And the last step will be to get this management representation letter from management as part of that. Moving on down this letter, we're not aware of any consultations with other accountants or auditors. I mentioned earlier that we apply certain limited procedures to some of that required supplementary information, and this just reiterates that. And again, it's the MD&A, the pension and OPEB liabilities, that those supplemental schedules where we do those limited procedures. And then the last page, this is the waived adjustments. You can see it's clearly in material to the financial statements. It's approximately $109,000. And what this is at year end is related to the Workers' Compensation Trust with the League of Cities. That has not, there's a positive balance in there at year end that has not been reflected in the financial statements. We discussed that during the audit. The management brought that to our attention. And so they'll look to get that recorded during fiscal 2023. So we wouldn't expect this to be a a weighted adjustment again at next year's audit. But again, you can see the amount was 109,000, so it's not significant to the financial statements, and that will anticipate that that'll be recorded during the 2023 fiscal year. So that's all I had to cover and highlight. Again, thank you for your time, but I'd be glad to try to answer any questions if there are for me.
Let me ask two questions right off, then I'll open it up for the board here, Alan. First question is, last year, you had recommended, and we adopted and put on the monthly board meeting reports that any related party transactions that need to be reported. Do you have anything like that we need to do this year that isn't necessarily mandatory, it's not a finding, but that you'd recommend we implement?
No, we didn't have anything of that similar recommendation this year, and where that would show up would be right in this section of this letter to governance. So if it rises to the level of a significant deficiency or material weakness, it's actually required to go back here in this report,
right,
which is part of your financials. So there is, I pointed out, there weren't anything there, but yes, nothing of that recommendation level in this year.
The other thing is, what was the level of materiality on the audit in terms of transactions pulled? Do you remember?
Well, I don't remember. I can probably look that up while I try to field any other
David?
questions the group may have.
They don't inform us of that
Okay.
during the time. Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, we don't normally share that with management. That's part of just the building in that unpredictability that
Right.
we're required to on the audit. So, but if I can look that up, John, while we're
It's just curious from a prior life, so. Let me go around. Catherine, you have any questions?
No.
Steve?
No.
John? Jason, can you hear us? Are you there?
Yeah, I can. I'm good.
You got anything?
No.
And Alan, if you can, just whenever you get a chance, just get back. I'm just curious. It's any further questions on the audit, or for David or Katrina?
Mr. Chairman, if it's
Yes,
in
sir.
order, I would make a motion to accept the clean, unmodified audit report prepared by Blue and Company for fiscal year ending June 30th, 2022.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion second. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor of accepting the audit report, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Audit's accepted. Alan, thank you.
yes, sir. Glad to work with everyone again this year. Thank you for that opportunity. Everyone have a good day and good meeting.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Kumon, do you
Let me
mind?
stop sharing my screen here. Yeah.
Okay.
I'll do that. Okay.
I'd just like to thank every employee that has any part or touches the procurement process. I'd just like to thank them for their diligence and adherence to our policies. I mean, every one of them has a part in this clean audit. And especially, I'd like to call out the finance department for bringing all this together every day, and Katrina for leading this up in our finance department. So thank you for all them. And
Well, and thank you all for all your hard work and the effort to keep everything in compliance. And that's a
Thank you.
big issue, so.
thank you, sir.
Next is, David, you want to discuss the financial statements for the month ending October 31st?
Yes, sir. So on page 83 of your board packet, you'll see we have financials for the month that ended October 31st, 2022. So we were 4 months into this current fiscal year. Looking at page 83, there's not a significant change from September to October on the balance sheet. One of the bigger things I would point out is line 45, property, plant, and equipment. You can see we're at just over 132.8 million as of October 31st. That's up 10.8 million, and that is minus our accumulated depreciation on all assets. So what that tells me, and it's a good thing for our customer owners to see, is that the funds that we are using and collect each month, a significant portion of that is going back and being reinvested in the plant board to shore up and continue reliable service for electric, water, telecom. So that's significant investment back in capital projects. The next thing I'd really just buzz over and look at real quick is just financial performance through the first 4 months. I'm looking at page 88 of the board packet. This is just our combined statement of revenue, expense, and change in net position. You can see on line 20 there, we're just above 36 million in revenue for the period. That is better than expected through the first 4 months. You'll see on line 50 and line 275 that we are below budget on our operating expenses. Also, line 330 are a little bit below what we expect on other revenue, but we think that'll catch back up. Very bottom line, you can see just over 6 million in our net contribution for the period. So a little above revenue than expected, keeping costs contained below budget. So we're doing all right for the first 4 months. I'd be glad to answer any questions.
Any questions for David? Catherine? Steve? John? Jason? I talked to David right before we got started tonight. One of the exciting things I do every month is cover the Pension Oversight Board. And they're projecting for what, David, next July, the pension contribution to CRS is gonna go down. And mainly, one of the big drivers is the Medicare sub for retirees is going from $227 to $89 from Humana. So that's having a huge impact on their bottom line, but next year, rather than an increase in CRS, I mean, again, they haven't formally adopted it. The KRS rate's unchanged because that's in the budget, but the CRS, at this point, it looks like it might actually drop, which would be huge.
That's great.
Yeah, especially as opposed to going up. So if we don't have any questions, do we have a motion to accept the financials?
So moved.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion second. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Financials are accepted. Thank you, Mr. Denton.
Thank you.
Next one, public comment. Do we have just the one group?
Yes.
Okay.
As far as I know.
I don't know if you, Jean Ann Matt, who I know John and Steve know, worked for LRC for years. I worked with her in the Attorney General's office. Was just a really good employee. Anyway, she contacted me early in the month concerned about a topic we're going to have later on the agenda, which is the community solar project, and would they be subject to getting any type of fungus or anything else on them, and could we be able to clean them? And she sent us the information. She wasn't able to make it tonight, but we've got 3 people who have signed up to want to give us some information so that when we get to it later in the agenda, we can have a discussion. But they've come to kind of give us the information, work with Kathy to get us all the materials. So with that, y'all want to come on up?
I don't drive well at night, so I'm gonna go first.
Okay. Thanks for coming. If you would, just for the record, identify yourself.
My name's Tacey Groves.
Okay.
Sometimes I write letters, and I'm called Margaret Groves. That's
Okay.
my first name.
Well, thank you for coming tonight.
You're welcome. I'm a retired school teacher. I've lived in either downtown Frankfurt or out in the county for 50 years now. And I'm a stone's throw away from the warehouses on Manly, the new Buffalo Trace warehouses on Manly Leestown Road. And I became concerned because we're starting to see signs of whiskey fungus on people's houses and stuff out there. And I became really concerned when we went to a meeting at the Peaks Mill School because they're trying to build more warehouses over next to Arnold Ridge, 132 home subdivision. And when I brought up the problem with whiskey fungus, they said they weren't responsible for whiskey fungus. And I said, really? Well, what's all that stuff on the post office across from the distillery down there? And they just said, there's no research that says it. Well, okay, so then I started doing some research. So I have some handouts.
And if it's the material you sent us?
I don't think so.
Okay, because we got some material from you all earlier today that Ms. Poe made copies for all of us on.
Well, that's okay. Let me just give you this, and
Okay.
then I've got the other handouts are pictures of whiskey fungus locally, but I'm not going to give those to you because you'll look at them when I'm talking.
Okay.
So if you'll pass those out. Now, don't freak out. I had to do this on my cell phone, and so the pagination's really bad. So I'm just going to walk you through it real quick. This is just some things I found out in my research. I found out about thermal oxidizers and federal and state and local codes regarding whiskey fungus. First of all, there's a definition from Wikipedia of thermal oxidizer, what it is basically in whiskey warehouses. It will absorb the ethanol before it gets out into the air. The Angel's share gets out into the air and combines with water, and that makes this sticky substance. And a thermal oxidizer can take it out before it gets out in the air. Okay, then there's an article, Angel's Share Not Heavily Byproduct, and in that article it made a few points about the Clean Air Act, bourbon fungus, and California brandy distilleries. And it says basically Whiskey companies have denied that the ethanol emissions are causing whiskey fungus, saying it is a natural occurring common mold that is found widely throughout the environment. The Clean Air Act has a clause in it allowing whiskey companies to release furtive emissions into the air as long as retaining those emissions doesn't hurt the flavor of the whiskey. And distillers could stop more whiskey fungus from growing, but it would take a lot of money. And 219, the thermooxidizers cost $400,000. But brandy distillers have been using them for years. In California, they're required by California law. And although whiskey distillers claim the process would affect the taste of their product, several brandy makers have publicly disagreed. That's just facts. The next one is refers to a Kentucky tort, which says that Kentucky distillers can't rely on the Clean Air Act to dismiss state law torts claim that it's bourbon aging plants fouled a neighbor's property with fungus. Now, I'll tell you why that's important in a few minutes. Okay. We got to whiskey fungus and solar panels here. Solar. I found out that the whiskey fungus causes solar panels to malfunction. And I first came on this because I was thinking about getting some, and I had some solar people out there, and I said, well, you know, they're going to build some more warehouses. How's that going to affect these solar panels? And he said, I really don't know. And I said, well, you got to power wash the stuff to get it off. And he said, oh, you can't power wash these solar panels. So that may be. So then I've included a letter from a neighbor up here on off of 127 complaining about the problem she's having with whiskey fungus after just 4 years. And then there is, okay, and this is, okay, it's Scottish, but they have whiskey in Scotland too, and they got whiskey fungus in Scotland. And this is the proof. This guy went out, he was called out because the solar panels were malfunctioning in 4 different places, and he found out that it was because of the whiskey fungus. So you can get on Google and read that whole thing if you want to. I want to point out that local governments are investing big in solar infrastructure. Lexington's Vice Mayor Stephen Kay announced that the city's Solarization Lexington initiative has agreed to add another $1 million, specifically fund solar buildings on low and moderate income homes. This is a big thing, and you guys are on a collision course with this whiskey fungus. Peaks Mill School just paid $3,000 to get their roof and playground equipment cleaned because of the whiskey fungus. Now, the 4 short comments. Some additional thoughts and myth busters. Thermooxidizers are not new. They're not experimental. They have been used for 35 years to take pollutants out of warehouses. And since 2012, approximately then, they've been required and working in California in the brandy industries. There is proof that there's a connection between whiskey fungus and distillation of alcohol. In 2007, University of Toronto mycologist James Scott published an academic paper about the fungus, which got attention not only for renaming and reclassifying it based on DNA analysis, but also for pinning it on the whiskey industry. So there is proof. And that's in an article I referenced here in Vice magazine. Strange place. This is very important here. Buffalo Trace is perpetuating the myth that distillers don't have to install any whiskey fungus mitigation systems like thermooxidizers because distillers are exempt from following the Federal Clean Air Act requirements, as whiskey fungus is considered only a nuisance pollutant. That's true. However, a Kentucky distiller, according to Kentucky Supreme Court ruling, a Kentucky distiller can't rely on the Clean Air Act to dismiss state law tort claims That is, bourbon aging plants fouls its neighbor's property with fungus. So, that's not true. And here's the deal that has been really confusing for people is, you've got federal laws, federal building codes, air pollution codes, you've got state, and then and those laws are generally, they will tell you, are very sort of minimal because they can't address every situation. So there's state laws, there's federal laws, and then local jurisdictions like planning and zoning can add conditions as long as they don't contradict the state laws, but they can add conditions that are more stringent or over and above what's required in the state law. And so while there's no state or federal air pollution regulation requiring whiskey fungus mitigation systems on bourbon warehouses, local jurisdictions like planning and zoning can require air filtration systems like the thermal oxidizers. And lastly, distillers will claim it's too expensive to install thermo-oxidizers. Please remember, one, each warehouse holds $500 million worth of bourbon every 6 to 8 years. A one-time cost of $0.4 million for a thermo-oxidizer shouldn't be a big lift for Buffalo Trace. The city could even offer tax credits for reducing ethanol emissions and defray the costs of the thermo-oxidizers installation. Remember, too, in this particular situation, Buffalo Trace is one of the Sazerac Incorporated, which is owned by one family. They're not responsible to anybody, one family, and it is either the first or second largest distiller and alcohol distributor in the U.S. They can afford it, folks. Finally, Buffalo Trace has the option of building their warehouses out in the county away from urban areas where people will not be affected if Buffalo Trace doesn't want to install the thermal oxidators to control their whiskey fungus emissions. So those are some things. Here's some pictures that I'm going to give you now. I'll let you look at. There's some stapled ones. I'll just let you pass them along if you want to. There's stapled ones, and then there's a one-page one. And since they're around, I'll just point you out to the one-page one, and then I'll let you ask any questions if you got them.
Let me first thank you for coming and for all the research and material. And I need to clarify and then open it up if anybody on the board has a question. As you know, later in the agenda, we're going to consider an award for a community solar project. Now, the jurisdiction of this board is the Frankfurt Planning Board, and it's regarding utilities. Planning and zoning, any other matters are really not our jurisdiction or anything like that. So what's going to be our primary focus, and that will come up later when we talk about the community solar, is there anything that we need to be aware of, or any corrective measures or actions we're going to take if we install community solar to keep those panels fully operational and clean? That's going to be our focus.
Yeah, well,
in terms of not any
all
other
of this,
actions in the community.
Yeah, I'm not directing this at Buffalo Trace.
No.
I'm just saying because, anyway, I'm just telling you information I found, and you really will need all this information.
And I appreciate that, yes.
But, well, I had a point I was going to say to you, but anyway, look at this first picture. And these are the warehouses that were built up on Manly Leestown Road. And you can see that some of the roofs on them are darker than other ones. That's because those were the warehouses that were first started filling 4 years ago. These other newer warehouses, they haven't started the whiskey fungus yet. You know, this is pictures downtown of the whiskey fungus downtown next to the main distillery site. They're cleaning this up now, so I thought I'd get a picture of how bad it was before they started cleaning. These stapled pictures are pictures of whiskey fungus found in surrounding neighborhoods. Arnold Ridge is one of them. And you know, if it's just like those the funds, I particularly picked the funds on the solar initiative in Lexington. because those are going to moderate income families, and all around this area down there where where they want to build the distilleries are those kinds of families. There's 132 homes next to Arnold Ridge, and none of them will be able to use solar even now, after just 4 years, and they're supposed to be out of the radius zone of it. So you're going to have to provide services to people, I'm guessing. So I guess for you, it would depend where you put your panels and make sure they're away from the
Right.
distilleries.
Does anybody have any questions? Jason? Okay.
You're welcome.
Thank you
You're
very much.
welcome. I'm glad to share with you.
Yeah,
Hope
sorry
it
to keep
helps
you-
make decisions.
Sorry to keep you here after dark.
No, no.
Thank you, though. Do we have anybody else to?
Anybody else that wants to speak? I think so.
Okay.
I might be able to help a little bit on John's question.
How you doing, sir?
Good.
Would you like, please identify yourself?
Yeah. My name's Joe Sanderson. I'm with the Department of Military Affairs, and I also live real close to the new warehouses. But as you all well know, National Guard, we have a lot of photovoltaic solar panels, and we have them all over the state. And we even have them at Boone National Guard Center, and they are they're not affected a lot, but there's about 4 elements that is the reason that they're not affected a lot. And Tacey was exactly right. These photo panels will be great, but you got to be careful where you put them. At Boone National Guard Center, we're west of all these warehouses. You know, prevailing winds blow west-east. So a lot of this whiskey fungus isn't blowing over at Boone National Guard Center like it does in Ridgeview and Indian Hills and those places. She's right. You can't do panels over there. It won't work. Another thing is that the elevation, you know, this whiskey fungus is pretty heavy, so it's going to settle, and Boone National Guard Center is up on a hill about as high or higher than the warehouses. There again, chances of getting that fungus over there are not as good as Indian Hills. Another thing is there's a bowl or a valley in between Boone National Guard Center and these warehouses. So, you know, it's got to go get up the hill. And and then the distance. I think, you know, I know of people that are within 3 miles of these warehouses that are getting this fungus. Maybe more, but I'm trying to be realistic. So I wouldn't build any closer than 3 miles, maybe 4 if you're on the east side, or 5 of the warehouses. So I think it's a great initiative that you're doing. We have one place in Barberville, the National Guard does, that is net zero. We're generating enough power to run all those buildings down there.
Have you all,
So-
Joe, in your experience with all the various facilities around the state, have you all done any special cleaning or anything, or what have you all been doing? I mean, just,
No, it's relatively new. I'd say within the last 5 years, since we've been putting the panels up, and so we haven't seen a drop in production, so we haven't really gone out to look at what the issue is. But so jury's still out on that.
Okay.
But I just wanted you to know that, you know, the photo panels, I mean, the solar panels are great, but Tacey was exactly right. You got to be careful where you put them.
okay. Well, Joe, thanks for coming tonight. Appreciate it.
Can I say one other thing? There is another solution. You can get it mandated that they put these thermal oxidizers
Yeah.
on the warehouses so there won't be any emission of whiskey
Yeah.
fungus.
And that's probably
Yeah.
beyond our authority. Yes.
that is
Yeah,
definitely-
yeah,
that is
and
definitely beyond our
actually-
You can express your concerns to both.
well.
The comprehensive development plan is being revised, and right now, so you could at least put that information in there.
Sure.
That's
Yeah.
what your concerns
Right.
are.
Okay.
Well, and the planning commission, they just sent the text amendment to the city and the county. And one of their conditions on that text amendment was, I believe, to put the thermal oxidizers on each warehouse, new warehouse that they build, which would be great. I think another one was that they would clean houses within I think they said 15-mile radius, which I think's ridiculous, but I think 2 or 3 miles they should. And there was some other elements that they'd put in there too, some conditions, but.
You know, I'm concerned about conditions, but I'm mostly concerned about the Buffalo Trace Amendment because it's about taking away the local district's rights to be able to put these kinds of restrictions on it. Because once you move it away from having it rezoned, then you move into this conditional use permit. And in the text code change, they say that any distiller in the state, in the county, can purchase any farm or rural residential property of 100 acres, of at least 100 acres, and they can build warehouses on them without any restriction or without any public comment. So it's really taken away the state's right to control the emissions that are gonna be coming out. That's all I gotta say.
Oh, there's a lot more to say away from the solar part of it about these warehouses, but
Joe, thanks for
I won't go
I
there.
do have a question,
Sure,
Mr.
sure.
Sanderson.
Yeah, Catherine?
I mean, you mentioned the Boone National Guard Center. Are there any other sites around the state that are close to distilleries that you all put in panels?
No, not to my knowledge.
nothing in Bardstown or?
No, we haven't, and that's one reason we haven't there, is because, you know, we're selective about where we put them. And to be fair, Bardstown, they have like 2 full-timers in there, and it doesn't generate a lot of power at Bardstown like it would somewhere like Boone Center, where we have people there all the time. It's kind of like an energy savings performance contract. If you don't have a lot of usage, then it's not worth putting the money out to do something like that, so.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir. You're welcome.
Again, Joe, thanks for coming. Appreciate it, sir. Okay, any further questions or anything? Anybody else scheduled to speak, Kathy?
I had a Will Phillips on here,
Yeah, Will Phillips, he's our energy manager,
but, okay,
and he couldn't make it.
Okay, well, good.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming up. Next is departmental reports. Gary, who's our master of ceremonies tonight? Is Vin here?
What do you think, sir? I am, I'm here in spirit, how about that?
Okay. Well, you wanna start it off, buddy?
Is he in the seat?
Yes, sir, I'll do it. Sorry I couldn't be with you tonight, I'm off going to the weather and didn't want to share, so. We'll start our departmental reports with, Public Information Department. And Kathy Lindsay's there to give you guys an update on that.
Good evening. That's hilarious. I am going to try not to be braggy because I know we don't like to be braggy, but sometimes I just can't help it because I've got to give some shout outs and some of appreciation and thanks to some folks. We had our Customer Appreciation Day on Monday, October 31st, and it was great. We had the whole setup out here in the parking lot again. I would like to thank Leanne Phillips and the whole support services team for getting all of that set up outside. Tim Kubert and his crew for cooking lunch, and all of the employees who helped man the tents outside. I'd like to thank Harvey Couch and the marketing team for getting everything set up inside. For Cable 10 for setting up over here in the corner. We did a live show from here that morning. John Higginbotham was here. The mayor was here. We spoke. Celebrated the 70th anniversary of cable here in Frankfort. And it was just overall a great day. We had a lot of our retirees return, and spend some time with us that day. We got the display case outside here in the lobby with some memorabilia of telecom. I want to thank Adam Hellard, Shane Holt for helping me get that stuff together. And we're ordering 2 more display cases so that we can put memorabilia from the electric department and water department on display out in our lobby as well. More to come. So, again, just a great day. We had a lot of good feedback from our customers. They enjoyed it. We gave everybody that came, got to sign up to win prizes. We drew for the prizes and had them all. We got them called, all of our winners, and every single one of them came and picked up their prize, which is rare that everybody comes and picks up their prizes. So it was a great day, so I want to thank everybody who participated in making that a success. So that was on the 31st. We did election night. We did our live election return show from down at the county clerk's office. It was also another long day for our Cable 10 crew. I just can't say enough about them because here in the last month, we've had a lot of meetings to cover. They've been they covered football, they covered soccer, they covered pageants, all the government meetings, and then all the stuff that we do. We do three shows a week, just regular in the mornings, and then we've done the extra shows. Then with all of the elections, and then here that day, and then election night. So I want to thank them for that. But then just 2 days later, we did another show live from Candlelight downtown. We were set up in the side room at Serafini's, and we had a window out on Broadway to see the lighting of the Christmas tree at the old Capitol. We had a lot of guests come in. The mayor came. Tish from the Chamber of Commerce was there. Robin from Tourism came in. Kayla from DFI came and visited us. And it was an hour-and-a-half show. It was all about Frankfurt and things going on, especially during Candlelight, and just to get people to kick off the holiday season downtown. So we were glad to be a part of that. Again, another event where we got a lot of good feedback, a lot of hard work from media services, and just another way for us to be visible in the community. And I think people appreciated it, and they want us to do it again next year. Serafini's has already offered to have us back, and we're happy for that. So just want to thank everybody for doing that.
It's like going to have an NBC The Today Show down there, you know?
I know. We had our window on Broadway there. So then today we started to kick off. We're going to do, again this year, a partnership with Passport Radio, the City of Frankfurt, and the Governor's Office to produce the Christmas Parade. That's going to be on December 10th. And we hope you all come out and do that. It was a huge success last year because we did it in conjunction with the governor lighting the state Christmas tree. So we hope it will be just as successful this year, and that'll be on December 10th. Other than that, we just your regular stuff. So, but again,
is your viewership still about the same on around 10?
I think it's growing. I don't have numbers in front of me, but everywhere we go, we have people comment on how much they enjoy the show. Just a lot of people now, that's kind of where they're getting, the news about things that are happening in Frankfurt. As far as all of the events, we do our community calendar, and that's how people find out about things that are going on that they might want to do, and that's what we're doing it for, really. So.
I watch it regular, in addition, John, to Star Trek and it's all the rock and roll classics on Channel 27.
But we do. When we first started out, I've said this before. We had to recruit people to come be on the show and talk about things that are going on and really search out for things that are happening. Now people call us. They want to be on the show and talk about things that they're doing, and we keep a calendar now to make sure that we get everybody scheduled that we can. So it's been great.
John, we had a judges race here in Frankfurt that a lot of people were very interested in a lot of places, and I know on Twitter, I know the Herald Leader and I think the Courier Journal both referenced the Frankfurt Planning Board, and our Cable 10 coverage is breaking the news of the results of that election.
Well, there you go. Hey, we do what we can.
You all do a really good job on all of it, really.
Thank you very much. We're trying. Yeah. Does anybody have any questions or comments?
No, I just want to say Cable 10 it is such an important community service, And the Customer Appreciation Day, I will say everybody was really in the spirit of things, and I just hope more customers are able to come out next year.
Well, we kind of expected not. That's not the biggest crowd that we've had before. The biggest crowd that we've had was 2019, and we figured coming back. This was the first time we'd been back since the pandemic. And the weather wasn't great, but just kind of getting back into the field. Yeah, this is something that we're going to be doing. So plan to come. But again, I felt like it was a pretty steady crowd the whole time we were going, and we'll plan to do it again next year, because next year it's going to be a big one, because we're going to be celebrating 80 years anniversary of the Frankfurt Plant Board. So
Shoot.
we were started here in 1943, so next year's a big year. We're already starting planning.
Thank you and all your team for everything you do. Seriously.
Well, thank you all for letting us do that.
Yeah, appreciate it. Related party transactions, David? Anything?
Unless anyone has something to disclose, I'm not aware of any.
Okay, back to Vin.
Okay, next we'll do the Network Operations Center, the NOC, with the Director Darren Rambo.
Good evening. For the Network Operations Center, your summary is, on page 149 to 151. It looks like in October, the NOC handled 2,021 phone calls, and locates were up to 901, so it was a very busy month. So far this fiscal year, since July, we've done 3,162 locates across the 3 utilities. It's 9,486, so we're creeping up on the 10,000 mark. Also, with this, I just included, just for informational purposes, I went back to the beginning of the NOC for the data I had, and gave you a summary of locates every month since, it looks like January, I believe, of 2019, just so you can see how they've worked out over the years. Obviously, there's peaks and valleys. Summer's busier than winter. In 2021, we had a couple of pretty busy months, but you can see that it's gradually climbing as time progresses. This is only 2 or 3 years of data, so it's not a really long look far back. But we'll keep tracking that, and just try to stay on top of it. Any questions I can answer for you folks? Anything for the NOC? No?
Thank you, sir.
All
Are
right,
you still
thank
fully staffed?
Yeah. Yeah. Ask again next month.
Yeah. Thanks, Jared. Vin?
Okay, if the board has no questions, I'll go on to customer service, and the customer service supervisor, Kathy Hester, will provide that report for you.
That would be one of the Care Bears from Customer Appreciation, right?
That is correct.
Yes.
Our customer service department participated in our Customer Appreciation Day this month, and we were all care bears of different types, because we do care about what we do in our customers and our community. Our board reports this month for customer service are on pages 153 to 156. Some things to note is our payment arrangements continue to go down. We lost 52 more accounts this past month. So those are people who have gotten caught up and are no longer on payment plans. And our ACP numbers continue to go up, which is what we want. So we're up to 638 accounts for the ACP program as of the end of October. And I'd be happy to answer any questions you all might have.
Any questions for Kathy? Jason? You okay? Okay. Thanks, Cassie.
Thanks.
All right,
Vin?
Mr. Chairman of the board, the next would be the telecom department with Superintendent Adam Howard.
Good evening. The telecom report starts on page 157 of your board package with the customer penetrations. Looks like we are 660 new next band customers. I think we had a marketing campaign and we netted another 90 that we should see next month, which is good. We had 6
out.
out.
Any particular area or just scattered or?
Some new areas we had just turned on.
Okay.
They were kind of the focus. So yeah, those areas. I can't remember the names of the areas. Lions Drive area.
Okay.
Crestwood, things like that. We had 6 outages for the month of October. They were power surges, some bad modules, and some damaged cable. Actually, our contractor damaged some of our cable, but got that repaired. Trouble call was average for the month. Nothing really sticks out on there. An update on Nextband. The underground crews are finishing up in Governors, and they're gonna move from Governors. They're gonna run out to Node 22, which is Spring Hill subdivision.
Okay.
Out 421. The overhead crews are working on backbone fiber down 127, bringing in a new 288 into the head end there, and that'll turn up the west side of town. We did turn up 3 new areas, or actually 1 area, but 3 subdivisions: Silver Lake 1, Eastover, Westover, Seminole Trail, some of those addresses, and the backside of Laffoon Drive.
Okay.
They'll all have available to get Nextband now. Another thing I'd like to report is we had a major failure in our VOD server Thursday evening, and to the point where we actually had a problem on Tuesday, and before we could get it rebuilt, we actually crashed the entire server, and so it is offline. And so as customers have been calling in, we've been telling them where they can get the content now. They can go to TV Everywhere, which is free if they have the cable service, and they can also get it through the Nextband stream. So that's kind of where that is.
And what's gonna, I think, we all got some information, what's it gonna cost to rebuild that?
The early estimate right now is about $300,000. So.
And what kind of revenue does that generate for us?
0. Yeah, it's, when we
That would
first
affect
put,
Mr. Denton's return on investment, wouldn't it?
yeah, when we first put the system in, there was a little bit. I mean, there's a lot of people that watch some free stuff. I
Yeah.
mean, we have 8,000, a little over 8,000 customers. About 3,000 have access to the service, and out of them, about a third actually use the service.
Okay.
So, I mean, there are people that use it. Most of the stuff is just the free stuff, which they can source through TV Everywhere or our Nextband Stream app as well.
So long-term, does it make sense to put that in and spend it for our customers? Is that a service, like you said, how many actually use it?
Yeah.
Is that a good thing to do, or does it make sense
My
if the
idea
customers
is-
get somewhere else to spend that $300,000 somewhere else?
Well, that was one reason we did the Nextband Stream.
Okay.
That was about a $200,000 project. What really hurt us was we needed about 2 more years. Because if you remember, we had our first streaming app. They went out of business, and so we started. So the idea was we would retire this as we started moving more customers over to Nextband Stream. We just launched the service, so it's still kind of new, but that's still the trajectory we need to stay on, I believe.
Okay.
So Monday, I think, over the weekend, we had 5 calls at the knock. I had 20 come to the cable building. So, I mean, we've had some calls, couple upset. Some people we can explain, okay, if you go download, they just want something on CBS. Because
Okay.
typically the people that watch VOD watch their particular shows. And so we're trying to tell them how to source that content, whether it's NBC, VOD, A&E, whatever it is, and go get it. And the other thing we're trying to do is explain to them, hey, you can turn that set-top box in and sign up for Nextband Stream and save 50 cents a month and have the same content. So that's kind of where we're at now. We don't have any hard numbers on the repair yet. We're still working. The other thing is Aris, who was the VOD platform, they have backed away from the product, and they only handle the back office part today. So
Okay.
it's going to be multiple vendors to bring the system back up. We'll have to have another vendor that actually does the video portion. So that's
So
kind
will
of.
you be bringing this back to the board for discussion, or kind of where are we at in the process?
We're working on the prices to get some hard numbers, and then that'll be a decision whether the board wants to make that. I mean, we do not have the money budgeted, so it would definitely have to
Would that
be
be
a budget
300,000
amendment.
to a single vendor, or would that be spread out over several?
It would probably be 2 vendors. It'll be the back office, which is Aris,
Uh-huh.
which that's the head end we have today, and then there will be a third party that actually does the content storage side.
So this is impacting the cable?
Cable
Video
customers with advanced set-top boxes. So there's 3,100 of them.
So, and I heard you talk about the streaming.
Mm-hmm.
How easy is it for us to go to streaming, or at least offer that as a prominent product, if you will? Because what I'm looking at is thinking about the younger crowd that will go to to the Hulu, to the YouTube and all that, and essentially would be getting the same thing that they would get from us if we streamed as an alternative to
So
cable.
another part of the streaming thing that we were trying to do, and we've got it narrowed down to 3 manufacturers, where we were actually going to provide a set-top box to make it look more like legacy cable product. So the people that needed a set-top box and didn't want to fool with apps on TVs, we were actually able to provide them a box so they turn it on, it works, and acts like their old set-top box. We're not there yet. I mean, we got a product selected. We could probably bring the agreement back next month, but it's still going to take some time to build that back office and get those boxes deployed. We really needed 12 months more out of this system.
If
And
you
I
spent the 300,000, how long would it take to get that solution up online?
It would still be several months.
Okay.
I mean, because like I said, Aris has kind of said that, hey, we're doing back office only because they see the same issue. There's not a lot of money in video, so they're pointing us another direction for the streaming part of it, legacy streaming. And so it would probably be 3 months.
But
Plus
it's possible, when we bring this up again, because this isn't the normal time we'd have this,
Right.
but it's possible, in theory, that we could save the 300,000 and still provide our customers the service they need or want,
Yeah, today they can
and
still,
possibly even save money.
yeah, today they can get the content. And anybody that wants Next Band Stream can get Next Band Stream today.
Right.
It's available. We just haven't got enough marketing out there to, and not no offense to marketing, we're just launched a product.
Right.
So it's still kind of new. But yeah, they could actually trade in their set-top box and take the Next Band Stream and save 50 cents a month. And that's only if they had one box.
Have we sent a letter out to those 3,100 telling them?
Not yet.
Okay.
I mean, went down, basically it died Friday.
Okay, yeah.
Thursday night into Friday. So we've been all weekend trying to scramble, and so.
Yeah, I got one of Gary's happy emails over that. Don't want to bother you, but here's
Yeah. Here's what's going on, yeah.
Here's what broke, yeah.
So we're gonna be contacting the 3,100 customers?
Yeah, well, depending on what we do, I mean, they're contacting us, the ones that actually use the streaming. The set-top box, the DVR function, all that works. The only thing that doesn't work is when they hit the VOD or punch 99 in the remote, it gives them an error, and at that point they call. So if you have an advanced set-top box and you don't use VOD, you just record your content, everything works fine.
Yeah.
It's just the one watching VOD programming.
As someone who's got one of the advanced set-top boxes, the only time I ever used the Aris VOD was if we had missed something. We wanted to watch something, an old program off of one of the broadcast
Right.
channels, and I was able to do this weekend after I got the email. I was able to go to the Watch TV Anywhere on a couple of the different sites, and I was able to pull those up.
Yeah.
So it was not, it was a little different. It was not as user friendly as it
Exactly.
were, but.
Right.
For now, I mean, I just think the idea of us spending, we've made the idea to go. We're going to go with the Next Band Stream. We're going to get that out there as our kind of our ultimate solution. If we spend this $300,000, it's a $300,000 for a stopgap.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, we'll talk about it more. I know, but I understand kind of where we are on it.
Of the 25 that called, how many came and got the box, the upgraded box, the next?
We don't have the upgraded box ready. That's something we're not there yet. That's something we're working on. We described to them the stream. Most of them, I would say over half, once we explain, go to TV Everywhere, some of them already use that and are like, oh yeah, I can do that. We had I know of 2 that were very upset, and they actually wanted credits on the bill because of the service, and
Mm-hmm.
But out of the 25, most of the people are like, okay, I understand. And, we basically are, at this point we're saying it's down. The fix is, it's not going to be immediate. We're looking at different solutions. But if you're looking for whatever program it is, hey, go to CBS Bod or TV Everywhere. If you have a Plant Board account, download the app and you can watch it there. Mm-hmm. And a lot of people are like, oh yeah, that's right. That's I can do that. So. It's a mix. You're still going to have a small section that, that's what they know.
Yeah.
So, and that's what the box we're talking about. That's what for that section of customers.
Actually, we get more content if you download the app. I mean, it's more.
Yeah, there's a lot more there. Yeah.
Apps, along with the program.
Yeah. So.
Well, I would just say contacting everybody before they, the sooner the better.
Yes.
It's so people don't have to call after they're already frustrated, but they get notice, here's the solution, and maybe even think about a credit.
Yeah, we have something ready.
Yeah, we kind of have a plan set up. We're just kind of waiting to present it to you all first, kind of what's happening. We have a statement that we've written about what has happened and where they can access this content for free now. And that's something that we'll put on the website, and then we will contact all of them, all of the customers who are affected directly, and we can do that. And then beyond that, we've talked about doing a more of a push now about TV Everywhere, how it works, how you can access it. We've given talking points to all the CSRs so that if anybody calls in, they have it and can go over it with them on the phone. But it's something that we'll make sure that it's more pushed out there,
Yeah.
user-friendly. This is what we're going to. And part of the messaging is that we're trying to be forward-thinking. And things are going to streaming.
Yeah.
And we're just going to help people try to make that transition because we're making that available to you.
Well, and I mean, hate to always take it back to dollars and cents,
Yeah.
but to tell our customers, that's 300,000 of their money. It's not,
Yeah.
that's their money, and should we spend it there?
Yeah.
Or spend it enhancing services for all of them down the road?
Moving
So,
forward.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because where we spend, it comes out of their pocket up, and
Yeah.
we're trying to manage their money wisely, so. And if anybody has something they can't get, they can come over to Adam's house.
Exactly.
Or that.
Go the head in. We'll find it up there.
But we're working on
The
simplification
content.
efforts.
The content is available to the customers, it's just a little more difficult to access
Yeah.
and it maybe a little less convenient, but we still have that content for the
Yeah.
customers. It's unfortunate that that's how it has kind of played out, but
Yeah.
I think some of these other alternatives, if some of the people try them, I know a lot of people that have tried the TV Everywhere, and because it's on your phone and your tablet and all the other options it gives you, it really opens up doors to a lot of people that they maybe hadn't thought about before. So I think while we wish this didn't happen, it may be somewhat of an opportunity for us to help people transition to some new technologies as well.
Jason, did you have any questions or comments?
Well, my mother actually just moved into a new house and she switched over to the whole new online package and she's loving it.
Okay.
It's going really well for her and she can get on any device and like I'm saying, it's going great, so.
Adam, thanks, buddy.
All right, sorry.
I do want to, Adam, the 660 on the next band.
Yes, sir.
Refresh my memory. Were we at like 500 last month?
Mhm.
Okay, so
Yeah,
that's,
I think it was, 550, something like
okay.
that.
All right. Okay, so pretty significant.
Yeah,
You
so
know,
every time we
100
turn
or
an
so a
area.
month is a good. You feel good about that number, or you think we could add more than that, or is that
I would like to
kind of
add
what's
more.
our limit?
Well,
What
I
we can put
mean,
on?
we're pretty limitless right now. The reason for that is we have contractors in here.
Okay.
And so and that's what I'm pushing marketing, because originally we were rolling this out kind of slow to make sure we didn't go overwhelmed. But since we got contractors, and of course contractors won't work because they don't want to have staff here that they can't, support. So we're pushing marketing as soon as we're getting areas turned up, we're releasing them and trying to get, go as fast as we can actually.
Great.
So,
Okay.
good.
Thanks.
Thanks, Adam. Vint?
You're muted, Dan.
Scott?
He's muted, okay. Hey, our report starts on page,
Go ahead, Scott.
our report starts on page 161, which you can skip that page. I found a clerical error in that one, so really our SAIDI number for the month of November should be around 27, 28. It's showing at .532, so that was actually wrong. On page 162, once again you'll see our pie chart, which has all the percentages for each kind of outage. 163 breaks it down to the total number of outages for that pie chart, and then on 164 is our top 10 outages for the month of November. I'll be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Any questions for Scott? Thank you, sir.
Okay, next we'll have Travis McCuller, Chief Electrical Engineer, to give you kind of an update on the AMI install.
All right, thank you, Vin. Real briefly, we have a little bit of an update on the AMI project. We received a shipment of 300 electric meters this month. We were expecting another shipment of 300 at the end of the month. That's the most we've received. That's the only shipment we've received that's anything more than a box since November of last year for
What
electrics. Just the supply chain shortage.
Oh, no, I mean, what happened?
Oh,
that caused a bunch of them to arrive.
Yeah, they're finally sorting through some of those supply chain issues.
Okay.
They've got a little trickle of component parts coming in, so good sign. They haven't committed to anything firm going forward, but I think we would take it as a good
Yeah.
sign. You know, better than where we have been. So,
Oh, yeah.
and that's it for AMI. If there's no questions, thank you.
Okay, next I will do the CFA report. It's on page 165 through 167 of your board package. You'll notice for the month of September that we cleared $145,025, and for the year, calendar year so far, we are at $2,239,622. And I'll be happy to answer any questions you may have on that.
Any questions for Vin? Jason? Okay. Thank you, sir. Next.
All right, no questions. The KYMEA report, if Gary has anything he'd like to give on that.
I really don't have much. So one thing I do want to update the board, KYME opened RFP for the short-term resource for the next few years, short-term resource. And the end of result is there's nobody submitted bid. That's directly tied to currently MISO market is really kind of short capacity. So it's a more and more some kind of fossil fuel plant, older one being closed down. And also they change out a way to calculate how much capacity you needed, or even the capacity, how much they do pay the current unit. Instead of annually usually peaking, they do seasonal, more realistically reflect to, because their concern is not necessarily just the peaking half hour annually. They are more concerned about every month potentially they might short capacity. Or at least they feel it's more fair to reflect truly all the generation, how much they contribute to support the system. So it's a new way they do things. And that's also make a kind of short capacity. I'm talking about nameplate, calculate available capacity. But overall, it's not much new generation being built. But only thing being last 5 year build is a renewable resource. But the conventional generation is not much new being available.
And I might go on and add, I think everybody's aware that the city commission met, I guess, was it last night? Yes. And met, and I don't think we've gotten the formal letter yet or the contact, but we're being invited on December 12th to appear before the city commission, address some of the issues that we received prior to our special meeting last week regarding Ashwood and the status of that contract, all requirements, and a solar facility for Frankfurt. And Gary and the staff will be working to get together some responses to that, and then contacting you all to see about the presentation. And so we've got some time between now and December 12th, and hopefully we'll have some finality on the Ashwood situation, because obviously we've taken our action. KYMEA has done it. It's still all not public because they're still in contract negotiations, but we do have that coming up on December 12th. So Gary will be getting some information out to you all, and then kind of planning from there. So want to acknowledge that we do have that coming up before our next board meeting. Safety, Vint.
All right, next, safety, the safety director, John Lyons, will give you a report, which is on page 169 to 170.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Just like Vince stated, page 169 through 170 has our safety report. Happy to report for the month of October, no OSHA recordables. On our vehicle accidents, we did sustain 3 for the month. A brief 3, sir.
3.
A brief description can be found. To review those, sir, one of our telecoms vans actually traded mirrors with a vehicle on Myrtle Avenue in those tight spaces. Actually
traded mirrors.
Traded mirrors. They got ours and we got theirs. One of our electric department service bucket trucks was actually on a call to perform a disconnect, was actually in the process of turning into one of the driveways, and inattention actually caught the side of another vehicle that was approaching on Landings Drive. And then lastly, one of our electric engineering vehicles backed into a security guard scanner at our service center. No employee injuries resulted in any of these incidents, and like I said, sir, most of the damage is very minimal.
and all the vehicles remained operational.
Yes, sir. The telecoms van actually goes out of service because it doesn't have a mirror. So
Well, we got a mirror, but it just isn't the right one.
We do. We got them into a spare, sir, at
Yeah.
the time. But the bucket service truck, minor scratches, and the electric engineering vehicles remain operable. Happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for? Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, next will be, that would be, our water distribution superintendent, Brian Bourne, will give you the water distribution report.
Yep.
And then David Billings is out, so on vacation, so Sharmista Dutta will provide the reservoir report for you, and then Brandon Powers is out at a conference, so she is gonna also give you the water treatment plant report. So, we'll start with Brian.
Brian, is it your contention your guys are better drivers?
I don't know. I don't want to say that because it'll be me next month thinking, you know, so. So, good evening, Board, Mr. Chairman. The Water Distribution Monthly Report is on pages 171 through 173. We installed 4 new services. We had 3 main breaks and we had 4 outages, so we had a pretty good month. Our construction crews, we've completed the main replacement project on Freedom Drive, and we're starting a line replacement project on Matador Drive. So got plenty of work to do, and we're gearing up for winter, so getting ready. So you guys got any questions?
Any questions for Jason? Okay. Thank you, sir.
Yep.
Good evening. I'll start with the water treatment plant report. For the month of October, the water treatment plant treated almost 297 million gallons of water for an average daily production of 9.56 million gallons per day. Lot 4 averaged 414 cubic feet per second for a daily average of 267 million gallons per day. And there was 1.1 inches of rainfall recorded in the watershed for the month of October. Short and sweet, any questions on the water treatment plant? And I'll switch over to the reservoir update. We had a progress meeting on November 11th. The project is currently 93% complete. Recent work includes finalizing site grading, the retaining wall construction, and work associated with the drain and overflow pipes. They have also seeded and strawed. Upcoming work includes fencing installation of the handrail on the retaining wall, and site restoration. Additional upcoming work includes planting of trees and bushes. The contractor plans to start planting in approximately 2 weeks. They have about 2/3 of the trees and bushes, which primarily will cover the area around the tank. The remaining 1/3 are expected to be received for a spring planting. In that area, those plantings will primarily go around the entrance to the reservoir site and the satellite dishes. And in addition, the final seeding of the native grasses will occur in early summer. We just, with all the additional work, in finishing up the retaining wall and the grading, it kind of missed the planting season, so now it's pushed those native grass plantings until the early summer. Therefore, due to some of the landscaping work being moved to the spring and the ongoing fencing work, paving has been delayed until the spring to allow for completion of the work and for warmer weather. And I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for Sharmista? Jason? Okay. Sharmista, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Vin?
Mr. Chairman, that concludes our departmental report. I would like to say that it takes a while to do the departmental reports, but
Yes.
also the public sees that there are a lot of people that make this machine turn and provide the services to them every day. A lot of professionals that work really hard. So I just want to say thank you to them, and we appreciate all they do.
They work very hard. We've got some very good people, so, yeah.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Next, item 5.1, consider award of bid invitation number 1770 for Capitol Plaza Oil Storage Tank to Tanks Direct in the amount of $42,270. Travis?
Yes, sir. Thank you. Staff prepared an invitation for an underground storage tank to be used for secondary containment at Capitol Plaza substation. The bid was publicly advertised and sent directly to potential vendors. 1 response was received. Due to the low number of responses, we asked our consultant at PowerCentric Solutions to review as well. They said the bid looked good and was in line with the pricing they expected, so no real cause for concern there as far as I'm aware. Again, it's pretty specialized equipment. We were only aware of 2 possible bidders. We sent it to both and only got the 1 back. So again, staff's reviewed the bids, recommend awarding to Tanks Direct in the amount of $42,270 with the delivery of 9 to 11 weeks. And this is part of an ongoing budget project. Happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for Travis? Jason, you okay? Okay. Do I have a motion to approve?
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion we approve bid invitation number 1770 as discussed by staff.
Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and second. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Contract's approved. Well,
Thank you.
Travis, that pretty much wraps you up for today, doesn't it?
Yeah. I should probably grab a seat, I think. I got two more.
Good meeting today.
Yeah.
Okay, the next one is one I think we've talked about a lot and the community's been interested in.
Sure.
And that's consider award of RFP 2022-3 for community solar phase 1 development. Travis.
Yes, sir. So at the October meeting, we discussed the release of the RFP to develop phase 1 of the community solar project here at the admin building. It would be right behind us here. So on October 19th, staff issued the RFPs. It was publicly advertised and sent directly to potential vendors. 4 responses were received. One of those responses was received after the deadline, so the top 3, the other 3 were considered. After staff met and the evaluation team met and reviewed the proposals, staff recommends awarding to Solar Energy Solutions. Solar Energy Solutions, they really checked all the boxes. They submitted a good price, well-qualified firm, lots of experience, lots of relevant project experience. So we think we will have a really good partner in the project with them. Jason has met with the staff as well and provided his input. I think we've kind of got his blessing, if I'm not mistaken, to move forward with the RFP. We've got $400,000 in the current electric department budget for phase 1. Be happy to answer any questions.
Jason, you want to talk some about it?
Yeah, and I want to be clear, when I met with staff for the evaluation, 3 staff members did the qualitative scoring, and I just, after the vote, I gave qualitative knowledge of the 2 top vendors that were picked. I will note that I'm going to recuse myself from this vote if that's okay. I do work professionally with the 2 top bidders that were selected by staff, so if it's okay with you, I'll just recuse myself from the ultimate vote. But I think both of the top bidders are very qualified solar firms that will meet the goals set out by the board and by staff evaluation. And I think I'm excited to see the community solar project coming together.
I might note for the record that Jason had discussed this with Hans beforehand about his role, and that Hans and that had felt it was perfectly so for Jason to be involved in discussions, ask questions and that. And Jason volunteered himself to recuse for it. So I think Jason deserves credit for, one, to be as helpful as he could on it, but also to avoid any perceived real or conflict. So thanks for that, Jason.
My pleasure.
Catherine, you've been our other in-house expert here.
Yes, and I wasn't able to make that meeting, but it looks like everybody else through their analysis was in agreement, and it's coming in under budget.
Right.
Our chairman pointed out something, so I just have a question about the fencing around it.
Okay, sure.
And so he pointed out it does say 3 strands of barbed wire.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess the concern is it's probably not that inviting of a look, not that we want to invite, but we don't want it off-putting. Is that a necessary feature of the fencing?
I mean, can it look less industrial? I mean, it's clearly got to be protected, but could it look less industrial or less institutional? Or
Sure. I would assume as long as it meets the code requirements, we could go forward with that. I would probably need to go back to the experts in that field to make sure that everything would be okay code-wise and see if we could consider alternatives. Ben, did you want to add to that?
Yeah, I think what we could do with the bid, all of them bid the same type of thing.
Right.
The minimal fencing, I guess you would say. If the board had additional fencing or other ideas they wanted to do, I think we could get the credit. Let's say the new fencing cost $20,000 more. I think we probably, in effect, would be expected to pay the $20,000 extra, but we could probably change the fencing. And again, that's been on an equal plane. We asked for the same basic generic fence. But if the board changes its mind and wants something else, I'm sure we can work with the vendor to upscale that and pay the addition would be mine.
Well, Catherine and Jason, both talk from time to time, made good points that this is bigger than just the community solar. It's kind of an example of what we're doing and we want the community to see it, and as much as we could make it look non-institutional.
Right.
That would be great if we go a little higher on the chain link or do something, I mean, just whatever's.
Sure, yep.
And I'm not even sure it would cost more, maybe just a different type of,
Okay.
I don't know anything about fence design, but.
Yeah, there may be lots of alternatives out there that meet the code requirements, and we can explore those and maybe present them back to the board.
So fine details like, this calls for seed native grasses. There's been some input to maybe do some things like some other places have with like a pollination.
Right.
Plantings, and then consideration of sort of natural grass cutters in the form of, I don't know if is it goats or?
Yeah, I think KU does goats or sheep. One,
Yes.
yeah.
But those are details we can work with solar energy on, is that correct?
I would think so. Back to Vince's point, everybody bid kind of an equal playing field. We evaluated everybody on the same criteria, so if there are, we select a vendor, we need to make adjustments going forward. I think it's completely reasonable for us to do so.
And then addressing the potential for whiskey fungus. I know there was consideration about this, and even just looking at the facility here is sort of a good indicator of whether that's going to be a problem.
Right.
And my understanding was we haven't seen that problem here, correct?
I don't know of anyone that's observed it here at this building where the site would be built. I also reached out to some industry experts, discuss how to clean them. There are companies out there that can professionally clean them. They can recommend professional grade equipment for us to do that. I understand they can't be pressure washed, but there may be alternatives. So I think, maybe a bit of a concern, but I feel like it's manageable. They can be cleaned. And again, the site here, we're, I think about 3 miles from the area of concern, if you will. So I feel like we've managed that risk as best we can. I feel like we can.
And I assume we can ask the manufacturer that the manufacturer whose panels they're going to buy.
For sure.
I mean, this can't be the first time anyone's experienced this potential issue across the country. I mean, there has to be some alternative.
Right, yeah, and we can see if there's specifics to a mold type soiling. I mean, soiling is a pretty common occurrence for solar facilities, so it's certainly all manners of it have been dealt with. And again, I think there's specialized cleaning equipment out there. We could, I think it's probably a day's worth of work for a member of staff to clean them if we need to do that. So again, I understand the concern. I feel like it could be, there are ways for us to manage that risk.
What seems pretty optimistic, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
Pretty optimistic based on some of the factors like Mr. Sanderson laid out, and just seeing what this building, the effects on this building.
Right, yeah, agreed. I think we're about the same distance as they would be from some of the potential concern areas, so I think we're most likely kind of outside of the, the bad zone.
CCU was here before us.
Yeah.
Right, same,
And the
state lab, yeah.
Changing elevation is going to help us too, so, if that's the case, so.
We could be west of it too. I don't know.
No, I don't think we are. Mr. Chairman, I do have one question.
Yes, sir.
Travis, I don't think you mentioned it. The number they landed off of this particular bid was $398 and change.
You are correct, sir. Yeah, there were some fill in the blanks on that one. Because it was, we did our final evaluation on Friday, but yes, sir, you are correct. Okay. Let me reference the page if I may.
It's 199.
Yes, sir. 199 of the latest revision. Yep. $398,056.
And 400,000 was in the budget, right?
Correct. Yes, sir.
And maybe you could, for the record, so everybody knows exactly what are we getting for the 398.
Okay. Yep. It is 186 kWdc. So if you think back to the original site plan we had envisioned out here, that was 700 and some change DC. We divided that into 4 phases, so this would be one of those 4 phases.
But the infrastructure they're building will support.
Correct. They're supposed to do the site work, the design, and the fence for all 4 phases.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Good. So when we want to add phases on later, that core work will already have been done.
Yeah, I think we'll have a head start in that regard, assuming we want to continue to expand here.
Right.
Yes. Yep.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like Travis probably clarified when you say phase 1, right? that will be included all the fence for the
Yeah.
all phase.
Right, yes,
correct?
4 phases of fence, 4 phases of site work, 4 phases of design, essentially. They're putting the panels and the ground mount equipment for phase 1 only.
Okay.
Yeah, but
So-
the other pieces, the site work and the fence, that's the entire site. Yes.
A little further, right, on the question, on the design,
Mhm.
part of the tree going to be cut, right? Little bit? some
Yeah, it's pretty.
I just don't want to get a
Yeah,
surprise.
not to, wouldn't want to surprise anybody there. If you turn to page 208, you could see what would be directly impacted by phase 1. And then they show it on out all the way to what would be phase 4 on page 214. So I think, you know, assuming we're going to go ahead and do the site clearing like planned for all 4 phases, you can see which trees would be impacted there. I don't feel like it's going to be a major impact to the existing trees, but there are a few there that would be cleared.
And when would, if we approve this tonight, when would work, and we approve it, award it, when would work start?
We had discussed January 1 to make sure we were okay on the tax provisions, but because that's constantly a kind of a moving target, the Treasury still hasn't released any firm rules. Jason, you may have a different opinion. I'd kind of been targeting that January 1 just to make sure we were in 2023.
Okay.
And kind of in the clear on the tax rules. And then, you know, that would give us kind of this month and a half to finalize any contract. We could, you know, look at the fence, those kind of things, give us a month and a half to maybe work on those other issues. Jason, does that make sense to you?
I think that's a really good timeline.
Okay.
And is this, will this be on our website for people to look at and see?
Yeah, I would assume we could do that after, assuming it's approved and the board is happy with that, yes, we could.
All right.
Yeah.
And then one of our next steps would be designing the rate and the different ways someone could participate, correct?
Yeah, absolutely. So we're looking at probably about a 6-month-ish window to get the facility built. So during that period, we would need to, in parallel, develop the rate, finalize the program requirements, how we want it to be structured, how we want the customer participation piece to work. So we would need to be doing that in parallel as it's being built. But now that we have a firm price in hand, that gives us the.
And that will segue right into item 5.3, won't it?
It will, yes,
Yeah.
sir, indeed.
And I mean, and our rate will be, just to be clear, it's, we have to set it so that one customer is not subsidizing a participant in it.
Right. It will be priced according to, number one, obviously the cost to build it, but we will also take into consideration the distribution system costs that will also need to be accounted for to get the power from the facility to the end customers. Correct.
But in theory, we could turn this on by July 1st.
Yes, sir. That's the way I understand it. We put out there 6 month is the preferred time frame. That obviously kind of coincides with the end of the budget year, which would be, is always ideal, of course. You want to get it done in the budget year. I think that's kind of the reasonable time frame we're looking at.
Well, I think, seeing no other discussion, I would defer to Catherine and Jason for the motion and second, however y'all want to do it.
Jason.
Oh, that's right, you can't, I'm sorry.
Oh.
Never mind. Catherine, you get to do the honors.
All right. I move that we award the bid for community solar to Solar Energy Solutions.
We have
Second.
a motion.
Second.
We have a second. Do we have any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion's approved, and Kathy, please make sure you note that Jason recused on it. Okay.
Great.
Thanks,
Thank
Travis.
you.
Nice
Yes,
job,
sir.
buddy.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Item 5.3, consider award of cost of service and rate design contract to 1898 and Company. Travis.
Yes, sir. The cost of service study is another one we've had several discussions over the past few months, and even kind of going back a couple years. The need to do a comprehensive electric cost of service study. So staff reached out to 1898 and Company that recently performed similar services to us, and negotiated a statement of work with them to perform the cost of service study. It kind of breaks down into a few major components. There's the data collection. They do the cost of service study. And then the final piece is a rate design component. And they have included in their statement of work performing all three tasks. They've also included travel to Frankfurt to come and present, three trips to Frankfurt. So generally speaking, we would expect this to be kind of like the other rate studies. We have a formal presentation 1 month, next month public hearing, and then if any action is necessary, that would be that third month.
The time frame from all this work and everything, we would be acting on that rate design, studying it around.
Ideally before July, that makes the most sense to get it done before the budget year.
Right.
They estimated 5 months to complete the work, which is going to push us, right up to that deadline. Hopefully, we would have April to present, May public hearing, and then June a final rate proposal. Yes, sir. Yep.
Okay. Any questions for Travis?
I should maybe point out as well, I think I've neglected to again, $75,000 is included in the electric department budget for this study. They've estimated the cost to perform it for us at $65,000.
Mr. Chairman, if it's in order, I'd like to make a motion to award the cost service and rate design contract to 1898 Company.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion's approved.
Thank you.
Thank you, Travis.
All right.
Mr. Chairman,
Yeah.
this just came to mind, and I really appreciate Ms. Groves and Mr. Sanderson coming sharing. And there are a lot of reasons people are not going to be able to put solar on their own home. So us having a community solar project is an avenue for people to be able to participate in that energy without it actually being on their home.
Exactly. And we're going to learn a lot, and I think the community will learn a lot. This is so. Next is item 5.4. Consider award of bid invitation number 1769 for pickup truck to Frankfurt Ford in the amount of $38,821. Leanne?
Good evening. Staff prepared a bid for a pickup truck to be used in the facilities locating department. We typically purchase these trucks on the Kentucky State price contract rather than bidding. However, due to a vehicle shortage, there are no trucks available to purchase on the state price contract until 2024, meaning that we have to purchase them retail. Staff recommends awarding to Frankfurt Ford in the amount of $38,821 as they're the best, as they meet specifications, have the lowest price, and the quickest delivery. The invitation was sent to 20 vendors with 3 responses received, and the bid is $821 over budget, as we had anticipated purchasing from the state price contract at the time of budget prep.
So basically, the difference between buying retail, because of the state price contract, and retail, we're paying. This price is about $800 more than if we had been able to find one on state price contract.
Well, I don't know that that's exactly true. That's just what we had budgeted. I don't know if they had been on the state price contract this year, if they would have been the $38,000.
Okay.
That's just what we had budgeted.
And this wasn't a vehicle we could opt for an electrical vehicle, right?
When we had the budget meetings, the one that we had talked about being an electric vehicle was for the security supervisor. And so we had opted to push that one out another year to try to get the Ford Lightning. So this was not the same truck.
Okay.
And then I think we talked earlier, and I know y'all took a look at see if there's any smaller trucks that would meet our need, like the Ford Ranger or anything like that. And I know y'all looked to see if that was available either now or in the future, right?
We did. There is no 2023 Ford Rangers. They're not being built due to material shortages. We checked into Chevy Colorados. They're going to be built later in 2023, but are now only going to be the single cab with no extended cab.
Okay. And then from what I understand, and you correct me, I think Ford Lightnings are still at least 2 years out ordering?
The latest I heard is 2024.
Okay.
So a little bit less than.
Yeah. Okay. Any questions for Leanne? Okay. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and second. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Contracts awarded. Thanks, Leanne.
Thank you.
Item 5.5, consider stop-loss coverage and plan changes for 2023 employee health plan. Ms. Brown?
How are you? Good evening, Board Chair and members of the Board. Staff recommends the Board consider approving renewal with Pan American for the specific and aggregate stop-loss coverage for the 2023 FPB Employee Health Plan. Our consultant, Cheryl Morgan, searched for competitive pricing and received responses from 7 stop-loss carriers. Our current carrier, Pan American, offered the best overall option for stop-loss coverage when an additional liability corridor is considered. To reduce premium expenses, Cheryl Morgan recommends that we accept the additional liability of $100,000 aggregated specific deductible. One or more health plan members must meet the additional aggregating specific deductible of $100K before the carrier is responsible for reimbursement of claims expenses above the individual specific deductible. With the $100K aggregated specific deductible option, specific stop-loss premiums will decrease by $7,674 annually. See the highlighted section on page 193 of the detailed pages. With the self-funded health plan, the specific stop-loss coverage reimburses FPB in the event any covered individual has claims exceeding the specific deductible of $125K. The aggregated stop-loss coverage reimburses FPB if the total claims expenses for the entire group exceeds expected total claims by more than 25%. The table that's listed below in the board package, I just want to note that the total projected healthcare expenses, those totals are from the renewal comparison on page 193. There are no recommendations for employee payroll contributions for the 2023 plan year. Staff asked the board to approve the renewal of stop-loss coverage for the 2023 plan year. Are there any questions?
Let me ask 3, and then I'll turn it over to the rest of the board here.
Okay.
Mr. Denton, as I understand, what we're projecting for 2023 is slightly more than budgeted, but you think it's within margin?
I do. We've budgeted 3.2 million, and if you look at the fixed cost of just under 725,000, the expected claim, this is on page 193, expected of 2.3 million, and then you add in the estimated vision and dental, you're just over 3.2. I think we're going to be okay. No, don't need to adjust it.
And the other thing which I think our employees might be casually interested in, one, for employees, will any premiums or anything they're paying go up?
No.
And for employees, will any coverage that they have for them or their family change?
Not in our prescription plan, yes, and
Right.
I'll talk about that in a minute. But as far as our medical plan, no.
And as far as our prescription, that really deals more with cost containment measures, but not anything that still will allow them to get their prescriptions for about the same price.
Correct.
Okay.
Yes.
Turn it over to everybody else. Jason? Steve? Catherine? You did a right good job on this, Ms. Brown.
Okay. Well, if somebody, you still got to approve it.
So I just thought I'd compliment you before the vote, you know.
Just keep me in suspense.
Yeah, just kind of build you up a little bit, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, nice job, but we're rejecting. Do we have a motion?
I will go ahead and make a motion to approve the stop-loss coverage and plan changes for the 2023 employee health plan.
Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion, second. Jason, anybody else, any further discussion? Okay, if not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Approved. Nice job, Ms. Brown.
Thank you.
Item 5.6, consider increase to flexible spending accounts, FSA voluntary employee contribution amounts.
Okay. So Frankfurt Plant Board currently allows employees to voluntarily contribute pre-tax dollars to a flexible spending account. That's to use for eligible medical expenses and dependent care expenses. On October 18, 2020, the IRS has released Revenue Procedure 2022-38, which provides inflation adjustment for contribution limits for flexible spending arrangements. For tax year beginning January 1st of 2023, voluntary employee salary contributions to the FSA are increased to $3,050. In addition, the carryover of unused FSA amounts are increased to $610 for the 2023 balances carried over to 2024. Currently, FPB pays our third-party administrator $4.85 per participant per month for administration fee of our FSA plan. Staff recommends the board consider approving FSA voluntary employee contributions increases effective January 1st and the increase for the FSA carryover unused employee funds for the 2023 balances carried over to 2024. Does the board have any questions?
Does this have any impact budgetarily on the plant board?
No.
Okay.
Yep.
John?
Nichelle, let me ask you a question. This new limit of 30,050, is that just for the health? Is the dependent child care different, or is there a same cap, similar cap on that, or is this a combined number for the two, or can I have a health and a dependent child care too?
So it's the 3,050 increase that employees can contribute is only for the medical portion of the FSA.
Okay.
Yes.
All right.
So the dependent care did not increase.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
And that was per the federal government
Yes.
change.
Yes.
They give us direction.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
And I'm
Thanks.
just curious, the third-party administrator fee of $485 per month,
Yes, ma'am.
is that per account or per person? So if a person has both the dependent and the healthcare savings account, would it be $485 for them to do their administrative work on each, or just per person?
So that fee is per member per month for the 485. But if an individual has both accounts, if they have the FSA and the dependent care, then we would pay $690 for that individual.
Okay.
So it's not double, it's.
Correct.
Right.
Yep.
Jason? Good. Okay, do we have a motion?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and second. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion's approved.
One more.
Well, you got one more.
Yes.
Consider changes to the health plan's prescription drug coverage and adding RX Help Center services in place of the specialty prescription drug benefit. Nichelle?
So Frankfurt Plant Board currently offers a specialty medication pharmacy benefit to our health plan members. There are a growing number of expensive medication on our plan and over the market that are covered on FPB specialty medication prescription plan. In the past years, we've worked with Cheryl Morgan to try to have a cost containment of these expensive specialty medications by adding a pre-authorization process to confirm the specialty medications are medically necessary. For 2022, the pharmacy plan has paid $96,385 for a total of 15 specialty medications prescription fills. Based on the increased expense, Cheryl Morgan's recent recommendation is to exclude the specialty medication from our pharmacy plan effective January 1st, 2023. In addition, Cheryl Morgan recommends partnering with RX Help Centers, a vendor service that helps self-funded employers reduce pharmacy costs through patient prescription drug advocacy. RX Centers will work directly with the health plan member using several resources to assist the member in obtaining their specialty medications at a lower amount or no cost. For members to be eligible to receive assistance, specialty medications must be excluded from the employer's group prescription plan. In the event the member is not eligible to attain their specialty medications at a reasonable cost, FPB's pharmacy health plan will absorb the cost of the specialty medication in the same manner it was handled when the specialty medication was covered under our pharmacy plan. RX Help Center charges $1,000 per month for the initial term of 12 months. And then MedBen, our third-party administrator, charges a fee of $1 per employee. There is a correction in the board package. The total estimated fees for RX Health Centers and MedBen is $14,532 annually. Staff asked the board to approve eliminating the specialty medication benefit as part of our pharmacy prescription plan and add RX Help Center to services to assist health plan members to continue to attain their specialty medications at a low cost to the member. RX Health Center proposal, MedBen administrative fee summary, and the 2020 RX pharmacy expense report is listed in the detailed pages on 197. Does the board have any questions?
Mr. Snyder?
Yeah, Nichelle, this is something we talked about. John and I sat in on a kind of a mid-year look at what our health coverage was and the expenses we had. This was something that's really blown up, I think, on a lot. You know, you look at 96,000 for 15. These are 15 refills, so it's 15. You know, you go to the pharmacist, you get your monthly bit. That's an average of $6,500 for each one. And there are some medications that are out there that does this. I want to emphasize that this is not going to result in any of our people not being able to get these medications.
Correct.
At the end of the day. It's just that we have to exclude them. It's kind of a dance we have to do in order to fall in so they can get this specialty coverage to help them. They will help negotiate. And these companies have, they have to do things where they have to give away a certain amount of these or discount a certain amount of these, but we have to make sure they're not covered. So at the end of the day, you know, this $14,000 we're going to spend, that's essentially going to be the cost of 2 of these prescription refills.
Correct.
And and like I said, I think the employees need to understand that this is a way that we make sure our money and the ratepayers' money goes towards where it needs to go and not toward the pocket of pharmaceutical companies. So I just wanted to emphasize that. It's not really a question. I just want to make an observation. Yes. And I want to emphasize that we're not, you know, cutting anybody off or leaving anybody out in the cold on it.
In fact, let me just pick a routine man on the street, Steve Mason. say Steve had a specialty drug. Walk for our employees that are listening or who are going to ask questions tomorrow. Steve has his doctor writes a specialty drug. Walk through what happens to him.
Okay, so we'll provide you the information with RX health centers. You'll be provided a rep that will deal with you, that will help you do the application, work with the manufacturer of the drug that you are, your specialty drug that you're taking, and make sure that you're eligible for any type of rebates, refunds, or anything, coupons that they have. And then you'll deal directly with the manufacturer opposed to you going through our health plan. So say if your income limit or you're not eligible for some reason, then at that time you'll contact us and then we'll make arrangements with the manufacturer to purchase the drug behind the scenes for you.
So bottom line, at the end of the day, if Steve needed something, he goes through all the steps, jumps through all the hoops, and at the end of the day, he's not eligible for anything. We're still going to make sure he gets his drug. Correct. Okay.
Correct.
See, buddy, I'm looking out for you.
First time I've raised my hand all meeting. I just have really a practical question.
Yes.
You know, for someone that goes finds they have a diagnosis and needs a specialty drug, how long does this take to make this, to walk through this process to get to the end, to get to the drug?
Okay. So initially, because we haven't actually been through the process, I did, Cheryl Morgan provided 2 references for us to check. One individual that responded back said that there was not a delay. The other reference said that there was a delay because it was just getting started. And of course, the member has to provide information, their personal information, such as their pay, or get documentation from their physician. So there can be, it's up to the member, and we'll help the member, but it's up to the member to provide the needed documentation in order for it to move forward. But after that initial review, then it should run smoothly because all the initial information has been provided, such as the financial, medical necessity, things of that nature.
So then if he got a drug that he needed, went through all the steps, now we're going to reimburse. Does he have to pay it, then we reimburse him, or we're going to reimburse the manufacturer directly?
When you, I'm sorry, you
I'm
said
saying he goes through all the hoops with the RX Help Center.
Yes.
Can't get anything.
Yes.
Comes back to us,
Yes.
says, you know, I can't get anything there, so we're going to help him. Now, does he have to pay it out of his pocket first, then we reimburse him, or we're going to reimburse directly to?
We're going to pay the manufacturer directly.
Okay, because for a lot of employees, for the cost of these drugs, they couldn't come up with.
Correct.
Yeah.
Right. So we're going to pay the manufacturer directly.
Okay, so he doesn't have to come up with $3,000 and then get us to write him a check back.
Correct.
Okay.
And,
these are already drugs. These are the kind of drugs we've already got right now a prior authorization process. So
Right.
there may potentially be some delay in getting these approval for these things anyway.
well, currently, we had Cheryl Morgan run a report along with MedBen. And we are going to work with the members. Once this is approved, once we sign the contract, we're going to, before the beginning of the year, we're going to go ahead and start working with these members, so there won't be a delay. So we have between now and and it just depends on when their next prescription is due. But like I said, and then because once this is approved and once we contact them now, they may be eligible to get one more fill under this year's specialty, and then, like I said, and then that'll buy us some time to get their information, get them acclimated to working with RX health centers.
So if one of our employees is sitting there tonight watching this, or they hear tomorrow, and they say, what about my 8-year-old, he needs this drug, or she needs this drug, they don't have to worry, we're not cutting them loose and saying, just fine, sorry about your luck, we're
Right.
gonna.
Correct.
Jason, did you have?
And it sounds like for people that are currently on one of these 15 specialty medications, you're going to be proactive and start the process. So,
Yes.
So really the delay, if there's a potential delay, it would be if someone is prescribed something new that's a specialty medication that's been kind of excluded. Did this RX Help Center give any assurances about how long to process all the information and give an answer?
No, but once again, it also relies on the member to provide their documentation in a timely manner as well.
Right, but if they did it, did RX Help Center say we can have an answer within 24 hours after they've provided the information, or any other assurances?
No, I'm sorry, they did not.
Could you maybe, after we, assuming we approve this, can you try to nail that down with them?
Yes.
Because I think that's a question employees are going to be asking you, is if I do everything right, how long do I hear something?
Correct.
Would it be a week, 2 weeks, like Catherine said, 24 hours,
The other question I would have, assuming someone could purchase one of these, is what if it's really urgent? You have a sick child and they find it diagnosed with something, and you got to go through this process. Well, a parent's going to want to go on and get the medication. And say if they found a way to do it, can they still walk through this process and get reimbursed for whatever they paid? Because if it's 4 or 5 days and your child has a high fever and has something rare,
I don't think this is those that. I get the impression that's not these kind of drugs. That's not. These aren't for acute situations, is my understanding. These are more for, I don't know. Maybe I understand. I understand where you're coming from,
Yeah.
but
again, it's for me that would be scary. Now I understand why we're doing so. There's no, but that is something I think we really need to try to be proactive, as you are with the current ones. But come January 1st, and a new person, new dependent, a new employee, or a different employee gets sick or needs something, and it's a time factor in it, then it becomes a problem.
Nichelle, would it be possible, in addition to the other thing we asked you in terms of trying to nail down the time frame?
Yes.
Could you inquire with them if there's some type of emergency procedure?
Yeah.
Okay.
If it's life-threatening and they have to have it now, a lot of times you can get it out of the hospital pharmacy if you're there. They can fill it from the hospital pharmacy. But just confirm, like what Steve said, if there is a true emergency,
Yes.
even if it was 2 weeks supply, till they got through this, something that they could get something if they had to have it immediately.
Right, and that's what I was going to say. Currently, what our specialty medication pharmacy prescription program did before is, as they're working through the process, they would fill a 2-week supply, or maybe the first 30-day supply, until they could get the authorization process between the doctors and our current specialty medication pharmacy. So, and I can't confirm that this is what would happen, because again, we're working, or the RX is working directly with the manufacturer. But that is something that I can most definitely check on.
Okay, and keep us updated on what you find out there.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Do we have any other questions? I mean, this is, how much will this basically save us in our health plan
Um,
on an annual basis?
Well, once again, the drugs, the total of the 96 was just for the 15, so it was just, someone had just started these medications, I think back in September. So it could save us that 96,000, because I'm sure it would have been more through for a full year.
And this is, I think, point out too for our employees, this isn't taking $96,000 away from them and their health insurance.
No.
I mean, this money is staying in our health plan, and they're gonna get these dollars for their health care needs regardless, not whether it's in pharmacy or medical or hospital or wherever.
Correct.
So it's just a matter of managing those dollars, but we're not trying to reduce their health care.
Right.
So it's potentially, I mean, literally every specialty healthcare gets covered by this special program, or every specialty drug gets covered by this program. Based on last year, we could save 96,000 minus the 14,000 for the program itself.
Correct. Correct.
We have any other questions for Michelle? I know you worked really hard on trying to put this together, so I'm not supposed to compliment you till after it's over, right? Forget I said it. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion's approved. Now you've done a good job.
Thank you. Have a good evening.
Item number 5.8, consider reappointment of Ethics Committee members Jack Brewer and Maria Bush. I think we talked last month about if anybody had any other names. These people are currently serving. Hans has contacted them. They're willing to continue to serve. No other names have come forward. So Hans, you want to take it from here?
Good evening, yes, sir. Good evening, Mr. Chair, members of the board. As you noted, Mr. Brewer and Ms. Bush have agreed to serve another term. We appreciate their willingness to serve and assist the board and the community. And staff asks that the board move to approve the reappointment of Mr. Brewer and Ms. Bush for another term on the FPB Ethics Committee. Thanks very much.
And they're paid to remain at the current rate of 0, right?
Yes, sir, I believe so. I don't know that there's a raise in the budget this year.
Right. Anybody have any other names to put out front or any other discussion? If not, do we have a motion?
I'll make the motion.
Steve makes a motion, a second.
Second.
We have a motion, second. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? They're approved. Thanks, Hans. And thank them from us for serving.
Yes, sir. Thank you. I will send them an email and let them know here. I appreciate it.
Next item, item 6, informational item. We had talked about previously about moving to allow for planning for staff to plan and everyone else for the upcoming holidays, of moving the December board meeting to December 16th. I think Kathy, at 1 o'clock. I think Kathy has checked with everybody to see if that would be okay, and I think everybody said they were okay to go with that. So do we have to take any action on that, Kathy, or just?
No.
Now, that would be a special meeting then, because.
It will be a special meeting.
So everybody needs to know that if we want to discuss anything at that.
Get it on the agenda.
Get it on the agenda, because we can't bring up anything not on the agenda because we're deviating from the regular meeting schedule. So, which is no big problem. It's just, if you have something you want to talk about, even if you don't want to talk about it, but think you might want to talk about it, put it on the agenda. We can always pass over it.
And I assume that will be in person.
Yes. Yes. We all get around the tree here?
Yep.
It'd be beautiful. Next, Gary, do you have any information? Hold it, Jason.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. My calendar also had something floating around on the 13th. Did that get superseded by the 16th? I'm just confirming.
That's probably the agenda meeting. I have to look at the calendar.
It is the
It'll be
agenda
the
meeting.
agenda meeting.
Which
Yes, would be
yeah.
the 13th.
Which you're going
Would
to
be the
cover
morning
for,
of the
which you'll cover
13th.
for me. Yeah.
Yes. So I'll
And
be
that's
doing
not,
that.
that's not something you're scheduled for, Jason. That's.
Catherine, you got that one?
Yes.
You and John did a flip, right?
We
Yeah.
swapped, thankfully.
Thank you.
Okay, Gary, you have any comments?
No, I don't.
Okay, does anybody else have any comments, old or new business?
Mr. Chairman, then, if it's in order, I would request permission to call closed session pursuant to KRS 61-810-1C to discuss pending or proposed litigation regarding cost recovery and employment matters. and KRS 618101G to discuss specific proposal if openly discussed would jeopardize the signing, retention, expansion, or upgrading of a business.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? We'll go into closed session and come back in about 5 minutes. Do we have a motion to come out of closed session?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion second. All those in favor of coming out of closed session, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Mr. Snyder?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I would like to make a motion that we direct staff to proceed as, in the PSC matter as directed in the closed session.
Okay.
Second?
We have a second. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Do we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
We're adjourned. Jason, hope you get.